Hello, everyone. It is a rainy Sunday night here in Bradenton, Florida, but we are live at Bat City Comic Professionals to talk to you about this week's small press and indie books as we wind down our weekend. It was a great week here. It's been raining off and on all week, which is kind of awesome. We've needed the rain, and it has been beautiful rainstorms. Hope everybody stayed safe during all of it and continues to do so. I know we're expected to see a lot more rain, so everybody stay safe out there. But we've had a lot of fun things happening this week, and one of them, which is always a blast, was we had comic creation workshops yesterday with all of the kiddos, and actually almost every single parent that came with their kids this week stayed and made a comic too. So it was really cool to see parents joining in the fun and making their own comic. We had a blast coming up with the craziest group story that we could possibly have come up with. A beautiful romantic comedy about a man who was best friends with Ross from Friends, the imaginary character, and had to save his life from a kidnapper named David Schwimmer. It was quite the hilarious story. You should have been there. And if you want to make sure you don't miss it next time, you should come out with your kiddos for Comic Creation Workshop. They happen at least once a month, like one day a month, I should say. And so you definitely don't want to miss them. And then we had our Slam Academy class, which was always a blast. All summer long, we are doing our advanced classes for kids and teens on how to really build out your writing and your art to make comics. And so we had a great time talking about plot and how you develop a problem and take it through, and the simplicity yet complexities of comic plot creation and all of those great and wonderful cliffhangers and mini climaxes that you get throughout comics. And then this week we also had book club, and our $1 book club, our Fresh Start book club, we read just that first issue of a title. We actually had fun going back and reading Astro City #1, which was awesome because most people hadn't read it. So it was really cool to see all of us kind of like figuring out who this character was and then getting some insight from some of the people who had read it. But what's also really cool is our $1 book club regulars went through a giant box that I just got in of Image First and put in order the next 12 books they want to read, which if you keep up with the math on that means they have determined a whole year's worth of book clubs that are only going to cost you $1 to join in on. So we are going to be making, I'm going to be making a whole new display that's got all of those $1 book club choices, so you know, and which month they're going to be coming out, because they have already slated it for the year to make it super easy. And so you're going to be able to figure out which books you've been waiting to read and come and join us for them. It's going to be awesome. It's free to come, or you can buy the book. It's only $1. We only read that one issue, and next month in July we will be starting off that wave of new books with Sex Criminals #1, and I'm really excited for everybody to get to read that one with us. It's going to be a blast. And then now it's time to wind down your weekend. So of course, in order to do that, you are going to need some wine, or at least I am. You can drink whatever you want at home. Please let us know, how you're celebrating the end of a great week for comics. I am doing it with this wine, which is called Teanum, and it is I already forgot how I say it. Sangiovese, we're going to say. It is an Italian wine. Our buddy Sydney actually hooked us up with this one, and I'm really excited to taste it. She said it's very smooth, easy to drink. She was like, it's actually easy, like too easy to drink almost of a wine. But I'm excited. It's essentially like a red blend, I guess, from Italy, and so it's got a lot of red berries, spicy flavors. It does actually say you'll see a lot of like purple notes to it because it does bring in some of those darker fruits. So I'm really excited to give it a try. I'm also really excited because it says it goes well with roasted meats, and we just got delivered a amazing looking pot roast from our good friends, the Sweeneys, who are custom comic creations. So if you need an awesome comic rug or a slab holder or a comic holder, that's who you should definitely hit up and call. Oh, that is drinkable. Oh my gosh. That is so smooth. Yeah, and ooh, and the spice is like way later on the finish. Oh my gosh, that is such a smooth one. I will say, Sydney has literally never given me a drink that I didn't like, and so I'm not surprised that I love this taste on this, and that it is exactly the way she described it. She is like a master of describing what flavors are in a drink and really like putting them together. So not surprising at all that she did such a good job nailing this. This is actually imported by Winemakers Import in Sarasota, Florida. So hey, local import of an Italian wine, which is really cool. So shout out to Winemakers Import of Sarasota. Just so you know, we drink wine every Sunday night. So if you've got some great suggestions, winemakers of imports, let us know. Because we will totally shout you out every time. We love having a Sarasota family member on the show. All right. I am going to slide that over there because she was not kidding. That is super easy to drink, and I will drink the whole thing. And then we are going to talk about some comics. So before I do that, coming up this week, just so you know, this Wednesday morning, we will be hosting recess for the Juneteenth celebration. I'm so excited. There's going to be like a butterfly garden experience. There's going to be a comic creation thing. So we are going to be outside. So if you are coming to pick up your comics between 11 and 12:30, you will probably see a ton of kiddos outside learning some really cool things and celebrating Juneteenth. So the parking lot, like right in the front, where if you are regular, you know, Matt usually parks those 3 spots right in the front, will actually be blocked with tents. And kiddos learning until about 1 o'clock. So keep that in mind if you're coming this Wednesday. We will still be open. Matt will still be in here with all the new comics, but Santiago and I will be outside helping kids having a blast and celebrating Juneteenth. So really looking forward to spending some time with those kids. And then Thursday night is our Ladies and Non-Binary Nerd Night. It starts at 8 p.m. It's just a fun time. It's an absolute blast. You get the whole store to yourselves. You get to talk about comics, video games, manga, whatever it is that you're into. Make some new friends, enjoy some snacks. You're welcome to bring your own snacks if you'd like. And share with the group. And then this Saturday we have Slam Academy. It's going to be a sequential storytelling class. So it's going to be an art and writing blend class taught by our amazing Slam teachers, Santiago and Adrian. I'm super excited to see how they put all of this stuff that we've worked on so far together. And then the Marauders game is also this weekend, this Saturday night. Shout out to our Bradenton Marauders who won today. Yeah, I was like, I gotta sit up higher to see my shirt, but they won their game today. We love our team. And so did the Pittsburgh Pirates, actually. Speaking of the Bradenton Marauders, Pittsburgh Pirates slaughtered today. They were awesome. And we're so excited. This is, I believe it's Safari Night this Saturday for the Marauders, which is always a cool game. So definitely check it out. Also, if you follow, there is a link on our Instagram, which is at Bat City Comic Books, where you can see, the link to buy tickets for the Bradenton Marauders through us, which actually helps support Bat City. So if you're going to any of the games this summer that have fireworks, that is the place to buy your tickets, is to go through that link and check it out. So that link is in our profile, or you can go to our website, or the Bradenton Marauders, I believe, have the link through their website. But either way, you can find it. We'll post it again before the next fireworks game. But come out and support the local team this Saturday with us. It's going to be fun. And until then, let's talk about all of the great comics that came out this week, because there are some good ones. And as always, I love to kick it off with one of the most exciting things that I can, which is something epic. Issue 11 from Image Comics and the one-man artist himself, Simon Kodransky. Again, if you don't know what Something Epic is, this was one of my top books of 2023. This is a world where people who are called epics can see the imagination, the things that people imagine in their brain come to life. Basically, everything that you've ever thought of is real, but only certain people can see it. And in our first volume, we were dealing with a guy who was kind of dealing with his own grief and losing sight of his imagination. In this volume, we have been following a woman who is an epic, and she works as an investigator for the imaginary world, and she has been trying to figure out what happened to the Greek god Zeus, because he has either died, like been murdered, or gone missing, but his thunderbolts have been stolen, and bad things are on the horizon. And not only has he gone missing, but so have other people in the imaginary world, and she is the only one, along with her duck detective friend, who is definitely not Howard, according to him, that they are the only ones who can put this mystery behind them. And they have been really focusing on going through the different godly worlds right now, because they think that might be their connecting piece. And so in this issue, they go and kind of investigate Thor, and it leads them to their next quest, which is going to take us to further into ancient Egypt, which we kind of get into at the end of this issue. I'm super excited. This book continues to be amazing. I love it because the first volume was really focused on like how art can be the way that we use our imagination, the way that we can view the world and understand the world around us. But this volume has been very focused on how words and writing are so powerful, and the words we use can really make or break everything in our lives. And it continues to be amazing. And Simon is doing the art, all the styles, all the writing. It's so good. We've got Ghost Lore, issue 11 from Boom Studios. This is the story of a girl and her father. He is a former priest. He was a priest at the beginning, a preacher, I guess I should say, at the beginning of the story. And something happened, and they ended up in an accident, and they could both suddenly talk to ghosts. And they realized that their job was to essentially help free the ghosts from their unfinished business and send them to the other side. Over the last 11 issues, she has been very angry because she wants to help ghosts pass on, and he is angry because he does not want to let the ghost pass on. And they have separated, and now the two have come back together. And they, in the end of the last issue, basically had some people come to them and say, y'all are the only ones who can stop this dark storm that is coming everybody's way, where ghosts are going to be trying to take over the world and attacking us because of this evil person. And they didn't want that responsibility, neither of them. But it seems like at the as we go into this issue, that's not going to be an option, and there may be more to the strength of the father and daughter relationship than even they knew going into this. Transformers issue 9 from Image Comics and the Energon universe. This is your home base, essentially, for all things Transformer G.I. Joe crossover happening at Image Skybound right now. Daniel Warren Johnson kind of leading that helm with this Transformer story. And in this, we have kind of seen the Decepticons get to power first. They really were able to find all of the energy that they needed to bring themselves back, and the Autobots have really been struggling. And in the issue before this, the Autobots got to team up with the Constructicons to kind of start to bring themselves a little bit more hope that maybe they could take out the Decepticons. But no matter how many times they fight, it just seems like they're not ready yet to take on the evil empire that is the Decepticons. And this is Decepticons without Megatron. So, like, if Megatron was there, I don't know how they would be able to handle it, because they cannot even handle what they are going against already. This really, as always with Transformers, gives you a really nice story, though, of the humans who really want to be a part of helping save the world, and the misunderstanding of the humans that don't get why there are giant robots here. And that now crosses over with the G.I. Joe universe, and how some of those Transformers have made a positive impact and some have made a negative impact on the U.S. military, and how that's going to, and of course the mercenaries and the gun runners and all of those people. And so we're going to see all of that come together as these books continue to cross paths. The Deviants, issue 6 from Image Comics and James Tynion. This is really one of those Tynion stories where he's building something in those ways where it's like, I don't really know where he's going, but he's giving us so many pieces of the puzzle that I'm sure I'm supposed to be collecting along my way. This is all about a man who is obsessed with a serial killer who killed people back in the 70s, and he may have actually been innocent and may have been framed for it just because of who he was as a person and some of his other opinions on things. And now a man has become obsessed with him and is trying to write a comic about him, and is like, I don't want to write about your the murders, I don't want to write about any of it, I just want to tell this story, but I need to understand everything about you. Well, now we're seeing that he himself may be taking this obsession a little too far, and he is currently wanted for copycat murders of the same thing. And so now his partner in this issue is trying to figure out whether or not there is any truth to the situation, because he feels like his partner is getting framed himself, and he's like, there's no way that he's doing this. Like, you can be obsessed with the story but not actually act on it, and my partner would never do that. And while the cops seem to think it's an open and shut case, he's convinced it's not, and so he's trying to get the detective to believe him long enough for them to maybe do some research together, and if not, he's gonna have to get his own hands dirty. The layers of this story, as always with James Tynion's writing, just keep compiling on top of each other, and it just makes the story more and more interesting, and yet pushes me in a way where I'm like, I don't know how we're going to unravel this when we go to, like, put our solution in place. But we're going to find out, because this is, again, getting deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole every issue. We've got Thundercats issue 5 from Dynamite. Now, we just wrapped the first volume of Thundercats, and we haven't actually started the next volume of Thundercats. This is kind of, or the next story arc, I guess I should say, of Thundercats. This is kind of your lead in between. And if you've been reading the Thundercats story, you know that essentially when they did escape Thundara and crash landed on this other planet, Lion-O found himself going from a kid to an adult almost immediately, and everybody's kind of been giving him a hard time about it. But Chitara, who has been the defender of him, has taken him out to, like, a wild spot and is like, hey, you actually do have to learn to fight and to grow up and to, like, figure out this new body, because you went from a kid to a fully amassed adult, and you're not prepared to be the fighter that you need to be our leader, and you're not prepared to make the tough calls either, and you've got to grow up, dude, and I'm here to support you, and I'm not gonna, go against you in front of everybody else, but I do think you need to grow up. And so this is a nice little crossover point for us from volume 1 or arc 1 to arc 2. It also includes the preview pages for the new Chitara series, because she's going to get her own mini to kind of tell us, like, what she's been up to. And I like it because it looks like it's going to actually feature, like, her origin story. We're going to go back to when she was a kid, which is a thing I don't think we ever really see a lot in a lot of these retro, like, rewind books, is like we see, the characters where they are now, and, like, with the new origin stories, and we don't necessarily always get the secondary characters, so I'm glad that she's getting that story. We've got Night People issue 4 from Oni Press. This is such a crazy book that just takes us down these different paths of people who murder people, essentially. It's like, what's it like to murder somebody? Like, what draws people into that? And we've kind of seen religious trauma as a guide, and strong belief systems in other places, and we've seen just, like, following into almost, like, cult-like mentalities. And in the end of the last issue, we are introduced to a little girl named Marble, who was supposed to go on a trip to see her dad, and she was on a bus, and the bus got struck by lightning, and she's the only one that survived. And in this this issue, we actually see her going to see her dad in New Orleans, and she is given a plane ticket by a random woman who picks her up when she's hitchhiking, and so she's able to get from Florida to New Orleans real easily. And then while she's in New Orleans with her dad, who's trying to clean up his life, or at least he wants to when she's around, he finds out that a man who helped pick him up when he was drunk is like, hey, you kind of owe me and you look like you're in trouble. Let me get you a job with my boss. Well, it turns out his boss is a drug runner. And he's like, well, you and your daughter need to come with me. You need to come to this place. We're going to meet my boss. You're going to get assigned your job. And in that Marble's put in some places and some spaces that she shouldn't be, because she is a 14-year-old girl and she has to make some decisions on her own survival. I really hope we see more of her. I really like her story. It does, of course, tell us that this is the end and does not tease to her next story. But if they want to keep working her into the background of other issues of the story, I'd totally be okay with it, because right now I really like seeing this kid's story, and this was such a great issue for her, and seeing where she's going to go. Napalm Lullaby, issue 4 from Image Comics. This is a wild story from Rick Remender. This is all about a world where we have been putting ourselves, like, we kind of found a new god, essentially, to believe in, and the world is, like, gotten to a point where it's basically a theocracy as an entire world. Like, it's like you have to, like, it's an oligarchy. You have to fall in line with the religious beliefs, or you're put on the streets. And if you don't fall in line with that, they will essentially, like, wipe you from existence, make you poor, brainwash you, whatever it is. And however they handle that for that particular person. And we have 2 siblings who have these innate powers inside of them, and they are able to also see that all of this is a load of crap, and so they're trying to take down this governmental system on their own, and they know that it's super dangerous, but they have been trying to do it. And in the last issue, we saw them kind of break into this capital city and try to put a stop to it in a smooth, calm, organized fashion, and that did not work out. And in this issue, we see them kind of dealing with the fallout of all of the things that didn't work in the last issue, and having to figure out a way to literally fight or flight to get out of the situation and to take out this whole system if they're going to. Really cool. Like, I honestly think this is going to be one of those that once the whole thing comes out, you're going to want to go back, because there's going to be little pieces of the puzzle that you didn't see coming along the way, because each issue that I read, I'm like, ooh, like, I think that that's going to be something. And it usually almost ends up doing so. And then there's like, I'm like, what else did I miss then? Because I know that there's layers, especially in a Rick Remender book. And so it's such a fast-paced book that there's definitely going to be something big coming to us in the end. We've got Torpedo 1972, issue 4 from Ablaze. This is a very, very mature topic book, and honestly comes with every single trigger warning that you could possibly put on a book. But it is maybe something I can show you. We're going to see. I don't know if I can. I might only be able to hold the book up in the air and tell you that it exists. Okay, I got this one, and it's just violent, so I can show you this page, and this is probably the only page I can show you. But this is about a man who was the head of a mob family, and at this point is old and dying, and is trying to prove that he still has the value that he had before. And every turn that he takes, he is a terrible human being, and I just want him to die. And I kind of can't wait to see what terrible comeuppance he gets, because I know it's coming, and I know he deserves it. And that's honestly like the drawing factor of this book. Like, you're like completely invested by every time, and you're like, no, I don't want you to get away, like, somebody's got to get you. And I have my choices of who I want to take him out, and I hope that it happens, because again, this man is vile and terrible, and he needs to die, and we're gonna see if somebody ever can just make that happen. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Cruella de Vil, issue 4. I guess she's also a terrible person, but at least you can read the book with all ages. This is from Dynamite and their Disney imprint, where they have been bringing us a lot of alternative versions or additional stories in your favorite Disney movies. And this one follows Cruella de Vil post the events of 101 Dalmatians. So she has served her jail time, and she is back out in the world, and she is trying to rebuild her empire, and dogs hate her everywhere because they know how terrible she is, and a lot of people hate her because apparently if you attack dogs in this world, people will be mad, and she is learning that lesson the hard way. But she has made a friend in another thief who wants to steal the crown jewels, and so they have to recruit some old allies of Cruella's and Horace and Jasper, and in this issue they are going undercover at the palace in order to steal the jewels. But if you know the queen, then you know that she loved corgis, and so Cruella may be a little outnumbered because of all of the queen's furry friends, and so Cruella finds herself trying to just go about her business and be the thief that she so willingly and capably has always been. But now that the dogs know to be against her, she has found herself in some hot water, and we're going to see if Cruella makes it out of this caper without having to go back to jail. And if the dogs are going to get her, which, you know, the dogs are probably going to win. Little Black Book issue 4 from AWA. This is the end of at least this part of the story. One of the things AWA is really known for is doing 4 to 5 part series and giving them little mini like seasons essentially, and then kind of bringing it back. But in this story, we found a man and a woman who find out that they're pregnant, and they're trying to just figure out how they're going to live their life and do some, you know, survive in this world. And when they are planning how they're going to live and raise their baby, a man shows up and says, "I'm your father's attorney," and it turns out your father has passed away and left you his house. And when they go to move into the house, they have an accident where the woman hits a woman in the middle of the road and kills her, and she's like, "I don't know what to do." And they end up using his dad's little black book that they found in order to call in some cleaners. And they find themselves in a mess of trouble because they had no idea what they were getting into, nor did they have any idea what the dad was into. And now we've spent 4 issues trying to unravel who the father really was and figure out what's the best way to move forward, and stuck in the middle of some really messy situations. And it has been a great read, honestly, one of those cinematic style books where you just feel like you're watching a movie and you kind of want to see how it plays out. Great characters, and this amazing Frankvilla cover is really great. Beautiful thing. I think that any book that takes place in either the horror realm or apparently the old, like the western sides of the country, should just have Frankvilla on art. Before I go to number 3s, I'm going to take another drink of this delicious wine because it's so good. All right. We are going to kick off. I said number 3s. I think there's like 3 number 3s. But one of them is Geiger, and this is your newest volume of Geiger now that it is a part of the Ghost Machine official universe from Jeff Johns and his new imprint at Image Comics. And this is, so many people have said, "Shannon, do you know if Junkyard Joe is going to come into play in the new Geiger in the way that he did in the old, like it was always hinted in the old Geiger?" And I've said, yes, I think so. And guess what? We finally get to see a teaser of where Junkyard Joe has been and how he is going to connect into this new story. If you don't know Geiger, he is essentially a man who was kind of at the world when it was hitting its end. We got into one of those apocalyptic situations. He got radiated, trying to survive, and now he is known as the Radiated Man, and he kind of fights against all of these mutated people and evil uprisings to keep people safe, even though that's not what he wants to do. I love this issue because the entire issue is just about him being real mad that the guy that's following him burned his book and on accident, and so the whole thing is just him trying to get to a library to find another copy of the book. And so as much as the dangers that come in this issue over and over again, all it is about how like the world sucks and everything's awful, but the one thing that will always be there for all of us and will always be there to support you and to understand you even when people don't, are books, which is 100% true, and that we should keep books safe and that we should understand them in the way that they understand us, and how like even the toughest of like mercenary style people is just going to need a book in order to survive this dangerous world. And I absolutely love that. Thanks, Jeff Johns, for a great reminder that no matter what happens at the end of the day, as long as you have a good book, you can survive it. We've got Saint Mercy. this is Godland number 3. So this is volume 2 of Saint Mercy. This is a book that if you did not read volume 1, you will not be able to comprehend what is happening in there. But the good news is that Top Cow has actually made a volume 1 trade paperback for it. So you can jump in on that and then start here. But this is a story about a woman, a young girl, honestly, named Mercy, who generations ago was forced to essentially become the gold bearer of the gods and to be their protector of all of their sacred stuff. And now here she is hundreds of years later still doing just that, and we've made it through the Old West times, which is what was volume 1, and now in volume 2 we are at the times of Hollywood and the golden age of Hollywood. And she ends up getting recruited by a woman to come on and be her, essentially like her gunsmith, her person that tells her which guns are right for her old Western movie and teaches everybody how to use them and things like that. And she has made connections with the star leading man, who's kind of like our like Clark Gable, like, you know, of the time. And he seems to be very well connected and also just very interested in her. And while she is hanging out with him, they come to find out that the darkest of creatures that she's supposed to be stopping and protecting the world from are coming for Hollywood and coming for her and her sister specifically. And she finds out that nothing in Hollywood is ever as it seems, and now she is in a mess of trouble and may have to personally stop the end of the world and deal with all of these gods very quickly if she is going to survive and save her sister and everyone else around her. Such a good story. And again, if you didn't read volume 1, you should grab volume 1 and just kind of get to know those characters before you jump into this one. Monsters Are My Business, issue 3 from Dark Horse. This book is kind of absurd in the best way possible, and by best way possible, I mean there is a flamethrower wielding koala bear, and I don't really know what else I would need to tell you about why you should read the book other than there is a koala bear with a flamethrower. But this is all about a guy who lives in a world full of monsters, and he is a bounty hunter and nobody really likes him, and he has been called in to do a job for the government, only to find out that, surprise, surprise, the government had ill intentions on the creature that they sent him to go bounty hunt. Essentially was not a bad guy, and the government is trying to steal that person and use his power for their own good. And now all of the other evil entities of the world have come to try to get that same evil, or that same non-evil creature. They want that power, the ability essentially to talk to gods all throughout time and space, and know way more information than anybody should know. And so now he's decided it's his job to protect this creature, along with his ragtag minions and team members. And of course, I've gotta find the picture of greatness where they say that they're not going to make it, and so he sends the koala up to go get what he says is his birthday present, and the koala puts on this little suit and has his little flamethrower, and I'm not even joking, it's adorable. And it's not a talking koala. This is not like an anthropomorphic animal, even though we're in a monster world. This is literally an actual koala that just like makes koala noises as conversation, and yet he understands everything he says, and I'm 100% in for the koala. 10 out of 10 koalas approve. We've got Armory Wars, volume 2. Okay, Good Apollo and Burning Star 4, volume 2 from Boom Studios. And this is Claudio Sanchez from Coheed and Cambria's book. Again, another one where if you didn't read it, you will not know what's going on. But this is the story of a man named Claudio who's been trying to essentially protect the world from all of this evil that has been coming for it. And he has partnered in this one with a young girl who is supposed to be helping him kind of navigate through all of this, and they are not having any good luck at all. Everywhere they turn, there seems to be villains, and that is, of course, because we are in the middle of like this story. So, you know, we've already kind of established like who they are, and that the war was supposed to be finished, and that we were supposed to have brought everybody in, but we didn't. And now we are also learning in this issue that there have been people who've been experimenting on some of the humans, and they've developed these powered humans who they are going to control to use in the battles for them. But of course, there's always that one that no matter how many times you reprogram and program, it seems to have a mind of its own. And I did not read all of the Armory Wars yet, but I have a feeling this is a character that Claudio has been looking for and thinks he may have lost forever. So I'm really curious to see how that's going to connect. I'm really hoping that, I know they had the older volumes of the Armory Wars like at Comics Pro, like I saw a couple of them, so I'm hoping that they're all going to come back into print so that people can catch up on it, because I know that it's a series that people are always looking for. We've got Heart Piercer issue 2 from Dark Horse Comics. This had such a great lead-in in issue 1. This was all about a girl who had dedicated her life to this man who was a god for her people, and she was like, I'm going to be the one that he chooses to be his partner alongside him, and she does absolutely everything that he asks of her, and like does it better than anybody, and then he still literally like rips her heart out and like tosses her to the side to die, and she thinks she's dead and ends up waking up in a future time, not like future times, but like, you know, like 10 years later kind of thing, a year later, whatever it is. Everybody assumes she's dead. The world has moved forward. Bad things have happened. And she is now teamed up with some people who found her and are like, hey, there are werewolves coming for my village. And she's like, I can help you stop the werewolves. And they're like, no, we have to appease them by sacrificing a young person from our community. And she's like, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. Like all of these gods who think that you should have to sacrifice people and that you should never, like, you should just appease them and appease them and appease them, that never gets anywhere. Like, doing the things that the gods ask you to will only leave you under their fingernails forever. Meanwhile, the girl that is still partnered with the ultimate baddie that she used to love is now found out that she is still alive, and darkness and vengeance and battles are brewing and are going to be lying very soon in the future. If you are just in need of an epic adventure with some really like kick butt female leads, this is definitely going to be the one for you. My Bad, Volume 3, Issue 2. This is My Bad Escape from Peculiar Island. This is from our buddies at Ahoy Comics and the great Mark Russell. And if you haven't read My Bad yet, it is basically the best parody of superhero comics that you are going to find on the shelves. This has Mark Russell's built out a massive universe of superheroes that are all ridiculous and absurd and wonderful all at the same time. It has become a very big fan favorite at Bat City. We cannot keep Volume 1 or 2 in stock, but we'll do our best to constantly have it for you. And in this one, we see Man-Child, who is essentially the Robin to the Chandelier, our Batman-esque character, is trying to move on with his life now that he's not a superhero and not associated with the Chandelier, and he goes out to eat with somebody who was a former villain, only to find out that that guy's kind of reformed a little bit, but not really. He's kind of like running some like MLM scams and things on the internet. And guess who falls victim to one trying to recoup his life? None other than the Chandelier, and it is hilarious. And then in issue 1, we actually got to see their League of Regional Heroes was meeting to vote to see who was going to become a hero for the national superhero world, and Captain Ohio is trying to earn his spot in there, and he is going for the award against other people where he is being, you know, all of his works in the past have been reviewed. It is hilarious to see all the other characters. Mark Russell comes up in that. And then our last story in this issue, next to last story in this issue is all about our once biggest villain, Emperor King, who is now supposedly reformed, but is definitely not, and has been leading a coup against the new governor of Peculiar Island, John Adams. Yes, the John Adams, who is now a super buff superhero from the past come to the future. And this is just not working the way that Emperor King wants it to work. And then we get a nice little section of extra stories at the back, which we get Legroom, which is a superhero that did not win the regional championship to join the new teams, which is a superhero who just has giant stretchy legs, and he is on Peculiar Island, and it is not the best vacation he's ever had. And then after the letters page, which I love because they remind you at least 12 times that none of these letters are real by telling you that they are absolutely 100% completely and totally real letters, including the one from Weird Al. And then after we go through that, we actually do get a Good Karen story all the way at the back of the book. And it's hilarious because Good Karen breaks in to try to stop a corrupt CEO from just, overcharging. You gotta love Good Karen. She's hilarious. If you haven't read it yet, please grab volume 1 of My Bad. Come in, let us know you want it. We will always order more. This is just an all-star team of heroes and villains that Mark Russell has given us. And if you are a fan of superhero comics, but you're looking for just a completely different take on them, or if you are not a fan of superhero comics and you want to laugh at them, either way, My Bad is the book for you. Now we're going to go into one of the world's most classic heroes, Dick Tracy. This is issue 2 for the new book from Mad Cave, and I almost feel like I should just get up and let Matt take my place. Because do you want to switch? Do you want to come talk about your book? Because I'm not going to do anywhere near the justice that the man himself would do. But if you haven't checked it out on our YouTube or our Facebook, wherever you like to watch your videos, there is an interview. I think you posted it to Facebook. Yes. There is an interview. No, not yet. Okay, we will post it to our Facebook. Matt did an interview with the creative team of this new Dick Tracy book, as well as the comic strip artist Joe Staton, to talk about the past, present, and future of Dick Tracy. If you haven't read Dick Tracy issue 1, you may not know that this is the story of the detective, the man in yellow himself. Seems like he's kind of new to the, not like super new, like not first day on the job, but a little green in his stuff, and still kind of in that establishing years of his life as the detective that we know, still very obviously, as Dick Tracy always is, very firm in his ability to do the right thing. And in issue 1, we saw the two very prominent figures in the community were murdered, and it looks like it was obviously on purpose, but meant to maybe look like it was an a mass attack. And Dick Tracy is now investigating, and he's got the best sidekick in the world, Miss Tess Trueheart, out here helping him doing the investigation and obviously doing all the work because she's just so cool. But we see Tess and Dick trying to figure out who is the one behind all of this. And at the end of the first issue, they did arrest Mumbles so that they could kind of get some information from him. But if you've ever read or seen Dick Tracy, you know it's not very easy to get information out of Mumbles. Not because he's not always willing to share, but because he's hard to understand. And we see Mumbles go into protective custody only to see the bad guys continuously try to manipulate their way through the police department and try to find their way to keep their reign over the town. Where does Dick Tracy... Oh, is he actually in Chicago? No, it's just the city, right?
It's the city in this, but it's supposed to be...
It's supposed to be Chicago, right? I was like, we didn't actually establish it as Chicago in this, but they are just trying to keep their reign. We are going to see... You see a lot of your Dick Tracy villains in this issue and build up even more to come. We're going to see Dick Tracy really, really try to save the day. And honestly, for those of you who are I'm loving all these crime noir books, or if you're somebody who's been picking up Batman your whole life and you've never picked up Dick Tracy, you should grab Dick Tracy. If you subscribe to Detective Comics at your store and you don't pick up Dick Tracy, you should just go ahead and add that to your sub list, because this is what Detective Comics came from. They made Batman, they made Detective Comics, and as such eventually Batman, to compete with this character right here, to go in this world. And so all those things that have now become tropes in the Batman universe of a massive rogues gallery, a guy who is willing to go as far as he needs to do the right thing, your corrupt police department, and except for the one good cop, your reporters, your connections with all the different people, all of those things that have become inherently classic Batman tropes actually started here with Dick Tracy. And so this is a really cool way to kind of see a modern take on that character that really started so much of that for the comic book industry in the 1930s. Him and the Spirit really are your big pulpy heroes that you need to check out if you haven't yet.
The Spirit came 5-6 years later.
5 years later, right? After Dick Tracy?
The first Crime Stopper.
Yeah. First Crime Stopper. Or as Matt says, the first superhero. We've got Exo Man of War Invictus issue 2 from Valiant and Alien Books. Now, if you didn't know, Valiant went away for a minute and they are come back with Alien Books, and they are relaunching all of your Valiant titles. Exo Man of War does pick up exactly where Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad left off with it right before it ended. Before Valiant disappeared for that minute, and they are still writing this. And so if you haven't been following along, essentially Eric, the man inside of the Exo suit, has the suit, but he's lost the voice inside of it. He's lost the power that goes with it. And there's a reminder in this issue that there was originally that was a person who then got turned into the suit control, essentially. And in this issue, she is brought back to being a person, and she is now being held hostage in order to keep Eric coming against the Roman Empire, the futuristic Roman Empire that he has been battling the whole time. And he is determined to go after her and save her because he knows that is his biggest ally and his biggest partner. This is all part of what they're calling the road to resurgence of the Valiant universe. And so I want to point this out. I've not seen a Valiant checklist ever before, but they are actually doing a checklist of all the books that you need to have that are coming out from Valiant and Alien Books to get you all of your characters. And I am super excited. I'm glad that this one kind of kept with the story that I had going on, because it was a really good Exo story. That was a great jumping in point if you had never read Exo Man of War before. The first volume of this with Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad, and Liam Sharp on art was absolutely an easy jump point for people who had never read it before, and this continues that story so well. But we continue our resurgence of the Valiant universe with the Valiants, and this is also an issue 2. And Exo Man of War got his own new title that's continuing, like I said, and Faith got her own new title, which kind of picks up essentially where Faith was in previous Faith stories. This is actually going to bring you to all of your other Valiant superheroes. So we see Geomancer, we're going to see Bloodshot, and they are actually in this issue, they were trying to team up and trying to get together to take out some bad stuff that was coming their way. And now those villains have started to relaunch as well. And so you're seeing Bloodshot and all of the other team members that have been around the Valiant universe for a long time come together and realize that they are going to have some really big fights coming their way, because there is somebody else who has nanotech body armor, essentially, kind of like what Bloodshot runs off of, and they are going to be bringing all of these people down with it. And so he's got to come in and help them out. And we see a battle in here that does not work out so well for our Valiant heroes, and that is going to lead them to needing some help. And the last page of it teases exactly who that's going to be. And I'm very excited to have some more Valiant heroes returning to the universe with issue 3 of the Valiant. So if you're a fan of any of the Valiant heroes over the course of their publishing time, this is honestly the book to get. Because it is going to bring them all back for you. So and if you didn't know them and you've always been like, I really wanted to read Valiant books, but I don't want to go back and read everything from the 80s and 90s and all that time period that they existed in the past, where's the best place to start? Honestly, just grab this, because it kind of gives you a touch point for every single character, and this is going to be your story spine that's going to branch through all of the new resurgence of the Valiant universe. We've got Mezzo, The Trial of Rodin, issue 2 from A Wave Blue World, and our good buddy Tyler. This is This is another one where strongly recommend that you read the other volumes of the story before you jump into this one. However, they do a really, really good job of giving you a story synopsis before it ever starts, and then kind of helping you jump into the characters. But in the Mezzo universe, there was a giant, I want to say solar, but not solar, like universal thing. What's the best way to call? What did they call it? They call it a cataclysmic event. I guess that's a good way to say it. But essentially, it's like an eclipse type situation, and it left a rift in their world. And there's been a lot of who's on what side, battles going on, and we had our one guy who was kind of the hero for our world, which was Rodin, and he had been fighting against like the bad guys and keeping everybody safe and protecting the emperor. Well, it come to find out, he at the end of the day is a good person, and so when some people were let go, because they had absolutely nothing to do with this battle they were in, the people are now calling for, like the people of his world are now calling for his head, because they're like, how dare you, you showed weakness, not mercy, it's weakness to let people go, even if they had nothing to do with it. And so now the emperor is in a space where he has to essentially decide what the best course of actions is. And he tells one of his guards, he's like, well, I guess like our rules are our rules, and he has to be executed. And they're like, hey, but he is a fan favorite in your community at the same time, so maybe put him on trial. And so they are now going to have a trial for Rodin to kind of see what the people want to do, and to prove whether or not like mercy and weakness are the same thing and should be treated the same. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing them actually essentially try mercy as a character trait. But he has been thrown in prison with a woman who was one of our like elders, who has always been just a leader for the community as well, who is in there because she is from the other side and didn't make the like they had to put her in there as well. And so we're going to see how these two characters, who are kind of the moral compasses of their respective areas, can work together to hopefully change the tide of the way things are moving. The Scale Trade, issue 2 from Magma Comics. Magma Comics is a new publisher. If you haven't jumped in on their books yet, The Scale Trade, The Silicon Bandits, and The Principles of Necromancy, which consistently is sold out here. So please let me know if you need copies of that. Add it to your pull list if you're a Bat City customer, because Principles of Necromancy does not last long. Scale Trade is actually something that is really exciting for me. I'm loving this book so much so far. No surprise, because it is Steve Orlando writing it. But this is all about a guy who joins what they call the DCA, which is essentially the FBI to protect dragons, because we live in a world where dragons exist, and somebody's got to keep them safe and keep illegal poaching from happening to the dragons. Well, he goes in on his very first mission and loses it on the people and ends up rescuing this dragon. And now you can see this adorable picture of him sleeping with his dragon in his bed, because he decided he was going to keep the baby dragon that they were mistreating and raise it as his own, because she was hurt and he didn't want her to be chopped up or experimented on or anything. And so now he has this baby dragon, and it's adorable. I love him, though, because he is the new guy, and he wants to do what's right, and yet he cannot ever let an injustice go. So they, in this issue, are sent to the banquet for the fundraising from the biggest organization that charity fundraises for them, and he's like, how can these people say that they're on our side when all of them are wearing dragon themed products? And they're like, oh, well, they all say that they're like family heirlooms or they're imitation. And he's like, yeah, but they're still wearing them and nobody believes that. And it's like, who cares? They give us money. And he's like, I care. And they're like, well, don't say anything, because the CEO is coming over here of the company that funds us the most. And he's like, yeah, I won't say anything. And then of course he immediately says something, and I love it so much. It's so great. And then we see him on the next assignment that he's on. He cannot keep that temper in check. If anybody is hurting a dragon, he is going to hurt them. And his partner is constantly trying to keep him from going off the deep end. But there's some stuff going on with his partner that we learn about in this issue that, is really going to make us constantly doubt who's really in it for all of the right reasons. we've got The Whisper Queen issue 2, which is a part of the White Trees world of Chip Zdarsky. And this is all about a woman who finds out that her son is on this mission and has been taken, essentially. And now this Whisper Queen is going after her son, and she's like, oh my gosh, like, the Whisper Queen is after you. You're not going to make it. You don't even know she's coming before you die. He's not going to be able to survive this on his own. I'm going to have to go out and save him. And so she gathers her forces and kind of goes out on this adventure, and we see that she actually was one of the great, like, fighters and soldiers of the world before, but she hasn't really had to do anything in that world in a long time, and as is her best friend, like one of the best magicians. And they cross paths with our original characters from our original story in this issue, and we kind of see how those two worlds coincide and how they all go together. And it is really just like a great follow-up to that story. If you didn't read The White Trees, they did just release a single issue that's all 3 of the previous issues in one, like, oversized book. So it's great. You can grab that one shot essentially and then go into this one. But if you're a fan of fantasy stories and characters and things that fit into all of those kinds of epic battles like that, this is definitely a good one. And much like something like Saga, it is all character driven. We're not really even exploring the world. We're only really dealing with the people and the quest to find each other. Akugan, Brutalizer of the Gods, issue 2 from Oni Press. I love this quote on the back that says, we create monsters and then we can't control them, which is the absolute perfect quote for this book. This is all about Akugan, who was literally born to be a slayer of the gods and is on that mission. And I love the way the story is set up, because we do go back and forth between his quest to come through the world now and find the gods and all of their minions, I guess is a good way to say it. And then we move from there back every time to a story of the different gods that he is hunting and the way that they ended up where they were. And so one of the things that we have been following the last 2 issues is the story of a guy who was elevated to the god of war. And in this issue, we see him fighting against the god of thunder and lightning. And he cheats because he's the war god, and war gods cheat, and it doesn't really necessarily work out exactly the way that he plans. And we see that this war god, this god of storms, is a very, very brutal god, and he has a lot that he has been holding in, and it's just awful. And so we're kind of at this point where you're like, I really want to see what Akugan is going to do when he comes in contact with them. This is another really great like barbaric kind of story. It's not quite like barbarian specific, but this is just that story of a man who has to go against the gods and the fights that he has to do to survive. And I love it because the third story in all of that is always something about when he was a kid. And so we go back to the time where he is in conversation with his mother, and his father is trying to train him to be this great warrior, and he's trying to get him to fight and fight and fight, and he's like, I don't want to do that. And he's like, you need to learn how to slay beasts. And he's like, I don't want to do that. I just want to make maps. I just want to live a peaceful life. I want to do the things that mom does. And so he's having to kind of balance those 2 things between him. And it's so cool to see how all 3 of those pieces of the puzzle come together. I do also like that Oni Press's warning on the back says it's suggested for mature and mean readers, because he's just like a brutal guy trying to take out everybody. And then we've got Ain't No Grave #2 from Image Comics and your entire creative team of Middle West. I'm so happy that they're back together again to tell me another beautiful story that is going to once again break my heart in all of the best ways. I love this story already. Because, of course, Scotty Young is a fantastic writer. Jorge Corona on art, Jean-Francis Bellelou on colors, just always blend this beautiful story. I absolutely am so stoked to have this on the shelves. But this is all about a woman who is in the Old West, and she was the ultimate bandit. She was always just tearing everything apart, robbing trains, doing all the worst to be the best. And then she meets a man and she falls in love. And after they fall in love, she settles down and she has a kid. And one day she starts coughing up blood. And in the Old West, of course, that means she probably has tuberculosis or something else that is going to kill her. And she's determined not to die because she finally has everything she wants in life in her husband and her kid. And she's like, nothing is going to take me from my family. So she travels out west further to where the end of the world is. And she is on a mission to fight death. And so she has strolled into his one-horse town, and she is fighting her way through the town now in an attempt to get to him. And I love this picture of her essentially riding like this Black Phillip goat. It's amazing. But she is absolutely not going to stop until she does. And somebody even says to her, like, did you realize that even though you haven't died, you've already let death take you from your family? Like, maybe that was what that meant the whole time. And she's like, nothing will take me from my family. And I love her so much. She's such a cool character. And again, Scotty Young always breaks my heart when he's writing stories. So just do it. Just take it, Scotty. Destroy it. It's gonna happen. I already know it. I'm gonna take another drink of this wine before I get to the number ones. Man, that's smooth. And again, we're drinking Teanum, which is an Italian wine imported by Winemakers Import in Sarasota, Florida. So I'm very excited to have one that was like imported by a Sarasota company to try out this week. All right, we're gonna hit some number ones, and we're gonna hit some cool books really back to back right here. We've got Godzilla Skate or Die, issue number 1 from IDW. Man, IDW is like, we've got Godzilla, and we're going to give you Godzilla for everybody in the world. Like, if you have a thing that you like, and you like kaiju, we're going to hit that, and we're going to put it together. And here it is for all of the people who love skateboarding and that entire culture. You got it. This is all about a bunch of teenagers who are just trying to celebrate this like monumentous occasion in their lives, which is a huge skate day for them. And so they have been planning this occasion. They're going to like ditch school. They're getting on the bus. They're going out to this place where they are going to skate, man. And it's going to be awesome. And everything is not going their way at all. Like one of them gets their board broken. One of them's having trouble with like their family. It's just like, it's already shaping up to be a really bad day. And they're like, who cares, guys? As long as we're together and we're going to skate, does it matter? And guess what? If anything else could possibly ruin your day, a giant kaiju could. And while they're on the bus going to their skate park, they get an alert that says, there is a kaiju in the area and everybody must evacuate. And they're like, whoa, dudes, like we cannot evacuate. If we evacuate, we'll never get to skate. We'll never get to celebrate this moment. We need to have it today. And so they're like, you know what? Skate or die. We're going to do it. And it's like, you might literally die because you're going to this skate park with a kaiju. But they're like, hey, we're going to do it. It's going to be awesome. This book is hilarious. And yet it's not. All at the same time. Like, you hear Skate or Die and you think, oh, this is, like, ridiculously cheesy. It's not going to be a good book. But this is actually really good so far. Like, we've got a lot of character development. We've got all the different, like, team members of this group of teens. They're all, like, individually, like, brought in already. It's a Godzilla story. So it's going to be a story about people. That's what it's going to be. It's people in a world that kaijus existed and how they're going to interact with that literally giant monster in the room. It's gonna be so good. And if you're a fan of Godzilla, if you like Godzilla and you liked Grommets last week, this book brings both of those worlds together in the best possible ways, and you absolutely need to read it. So check it out. And then we've got SCP comic series. This is a one-shot from within the SCP world about a plague doctor. And this is from Para Books. This is the Hawaiian comic publisher, which I'm excited we can actually get the Para Book stories now, so that's super cool for us. And this SCP is a science, does it tell me what it stands for? No. It is a science organization, essentially, where they are doing all kinds of research on different things and kind of just trying to figure out what's going on. They're a secret organization that has no real control over what they're doing and no limits to what they can do. And they end up seeing this man who looks very suspicious, and everywhere he goes, bad things, crazy things happen. Death follows him, and so they bring him in, and he's a plague doctor. And they're like, "What is going on? What are you doing?" And he's like, "I have to stop this pestilence that is moving through humanity, and you have to know what it is. Surely you know what it is. You're scientists." And they're like, "We don't, but we understand your need to stop it, and we're happy to give you the space that you need to do it." And so they start bringing him. Initially, they bring him a couple of bodies of humans that are still alive for him to like look into and investigate. And then they're like, "Ooh, we can't let him do this anymore." So they delete him down, like move him down to like cows and goats and things like that. And the plague doctor is very offended. And there's one scientist who's working with him who was like, "I kind of want to give him everything he wants. I want to see what he's going to find out. I want to know what this pestilence is." And he kind of has almost like a Harley Quinn to the Joker level obsession with this plague doctor and what he's doing. And it starts to really mess with his mind. And you see this like this slow decline of this doctor as he becomes obsessed with the plague doctor himself. And so we're going to see like how that's going to impact him as he continues to follow through. And this, like I said, is a one shot. So you do get a resolution in this story by the end of it, but I'm not going to give you where this goes because you've got to check it out. It's wicked cool. If you do pick this up, it does come in like a plastic bag. It's not a poly bag, but it comes like in like a safe travel because it is being distributed from like over from Hawaii and stuff. So they like kind of wrap it in the same way that the Band of Bards get the specialty wrapping. But you can we will have this copy opened up if you want to check it out. If you like plague doctors, it's freaking cool. We've got High on Life, issue 1 from Titan Comics, and this is absurd. This is a really, really out there book about a group of, about a bounty hunter who doesn't speak, and he runs around with some talking guns that are aliens that are also guns, and so they're called Gatlians. And they are the ones that talk, and they are the ones that kind of control where the bounty hunter goes. And they end up saving a human from a bad guy. And the human's like, am I okay to go with you? And they're like, "Yeah, didn't you know there's a human hunter out here right now? Like, you need to have protection. You need to stay away from them." And he's like, "Well, what do I do?" And they're like, "Come with us." And so they end up taking said human in to protect him. And that human is Steve Buscemi, the actor. And I love it. They're like, "Oh my God, it's the actor Steve Buscemi." And then they just take him out for drinks. And they go to this restaurant to have their conversation. And the waitress is like, "Not you guys. Every time y'all come, you never order any food and you just get water and you just tell your backstory for like 4 hours." And the one Gatlian's like, "I'm not going to get water. I'd like some ice, please." And she's like, "Are you kidding me right now?" And he's like, "No, I want some ice." And they're like, "And we're not going to sit here for hours and tell her backstory." And then, of course, they immediately go into the backstory and tell us all the exposition of how they became the people that they are, which they're not people. They're guns that are aliens. And kind of who they think that the person that is the human hunter is. And so we learn the backstory of that person, and we learn where they're going, and we kind of figure out that it's gonna have to be up to us to save the day, and you know, maybe they'll actually order something to eat someday. We'll find out. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. If you need a good laugh, this is definitely the book to pick up for your humorous needs. We've got Rifters, issue 1 from Image Comics, and I just said High on Life is the book to pick up for your humorous needs, but this one also is hilarious in a completely different way. That's like hilarious in your over-the-top humor. This is like hilarious in witticisms and absurdities all at the same time. More satirical. But this is about a man who invents time travel, and initially, like when time travel is invented, the government's like, "We can't let everybody have time travel." And they're like, "We're going to limit it to just scientists." And I love the scientists partying. And they're like, "Yeah, take that, religion. Score 1 for science." And then a president comes in who's like, time travel should be for everybody. And so then they start creating time travel for everybody, and corporations get in on it, and then suddenly like anybody can time travel, and bad things start happening. People start using it for all the wrong reasons, and just really messing things up. And so they of course have to create an association that's like essentially time cops that will police the wrongdoings and try to keep everything from going too insane, because like somebody brought dinosaurs back at one point, and it was like that now they're people on the streets, and it was a big giant mess. And I love it because you get all of that story, and then you find out that it's because our main character is on a date. And every time he goes on a date, what he does is he tells everybody the history of time travel and all of the things that happen. And then he goes back to work, he meets up with his partner, and we find out that they have a case that they have to solve, which is that there are these two guys who have gone back in time to the age of Prohibition, and they are trying to steal some of the alcohol that is being made then. And so they must go back to that time and stop those two rifters from really just destroying everything. And so they go back to battle that, and it sets up the beginning of our adventure in that situation. Again, it's hilarious in like just satire of all time books. Like if you are like somebody who like you're like, I'm kind of over the time travel thing, we do it all the time, this is your parody. This is your like Mark Russell style parody of the time travel genre, in the same way that Mark Russell does My Bad. This kind of does that for the time travel genre, but also gives you a time travel story. And it's Brian Posehn who's doing it. So again, you're getting like somebody who's worked on things like Deadpool and stuff, giving you that kind of humor and that satire to it. So it's very much a fun adventure, and we're gonna see where that goes. But I do love those two characters because they're so opposites and yet work so well together already. We've got Plastic Death and Dolls issue 1 from Image Comics. You do not have to have read Plastic to read this. That was a key thing that a lot of people asked this week, was if I've never read Plastic, can I read this? This is kind of an origin story to our serial killer in Plastic. So you don't have to know that world at all. This is going back in time and telling us essentially how our serial killer becomes a serial killer. And it's going to be amazing. Doug Wagner, who does the Plastic story as well as Vinyl, and just did was it Plush? Plush. It was just Plush. I don't know why I always want to make it called Plush. Plush, Plastic, Vinyl. He is now giving us a new look at this character, who is one of those people who, if you don't know the story of Plastic, I almost don't want to tell you because I want you to just read the book. But I guess you kind of need to know he is a serial killer and is fighting for the life of his loved one in like a retired serial killer in the original Plastic story, who his loved one is kidnapped and he must save them. And the name of the book is Plastic because so is his loved one. And you should read the book if you haven't. This is going back and kind of showing us what it was like for him as a kid, and how he kind of gets to be the person that he is, and the serial killer start for him of him trying to just do the right thing, but he has this love for innocence and animals and people who attack them. He kind of feels it necessary to take it into his own hands to attack them, and is always going to be like the defender of the innocent. And so we see how that leads him from a fight to a killer, and you're gonna really find a lot to love in this character, because he's just, you just gotta love him. I don't know what it is. Doug Wagner can make you love serial killers and by giving us these emotional stories for them to go on. And they're never like the bad guy serial killer, but they are, because they're serial killers. It's just, it's hard how much you love them. We've got Remote Space issue 1 from Image Comics. If you are a sci-fi fan, this is the most sci-fi book of the week. This is going to be your high-level sci-fi. We are in a world where, as always, we destroyed the world and we need to find a way to survive. And essentially 2 different people groups come out of the attempt to save the world. There are those who end up doing bio experiments on themselves, and we kind of see like species change of humans. And then there are those who kind of do tech changes to their bodies, and so we see them grow and start to change themselves like mechanically, and it's just all tech changes. And we kind of get a lot of heavy exposition at the front of this book. Like, you get the entirety of the changes of the world and how the two different people groups came to be, and how the two different people groups are now at odds with each other and are trying to survive in different ways, all before we really meet either of our main characters. And so we do see one who is from the bio-changed world, who is now a very different alien-esque style creature. And then we see a world where the tech people are, and they're trying to kind of just they're on the Earth trying to work on some machines that they have there. And we meet a young girl who is a part of the new generation that for some reason the tech advancements aren't working for. And so she is unable to get any of the tech advancements, and she feels excluded because everybody else her age was still able to do it, but now she can't because she has this mysterious condition that doesn't let her connect. And so we're going to see for her what that means for her place in this society. And, you know, maybe it's going to mean that, like, also this is going to lead us back to humanity coming back. I don't really know. There are some big wars that have happened and kind of seem to be on the horizon for us to see them happen again. And so this is a 4-part miniseries, so it's not like a huge commitment. But if you're a sci-fi fan, I think this is going to be one that you absolutely want to commit to for those 4 issues, because there is a lot in here that's already a huge world built out, and I already really want to see what happens with this girl. I'm very invested in her. We've got Hate Revisited #1 from Fantagraphics. If you don't know, Hate came out in the 1990s. It was one of like the big books of the underground world of the 1990s. It was actually considered to be like the Gen X like comic that really like characterized everything about them, and it was huge in the 90s. And then now it's come back for the first time since then, and we're seeing our same character who is named Buddy, and he is the typical like stereotype of a Gen Xer. He's like didn't like do anything, like he hasn't accomplished anything really with his life. He kind of just like checks some boxes and lives that like, oh yeah, like I don't really care, like whatever happens, like it's gonna happen whether I care or not, so what does it really matter? And in the old books, like we kind of saw him rise to his friends group and where they were going to be, and now they're all adults. And they're living in the now times, and they're all kind of trying to grow up, but Buddy really didn't. And so he's married one of the girls that he met, and we see how they met in this story. And now they're dealing with 2024 problems and 2024 situations, and they're not in agreement on a lot of things, because Buddy still has that classic, well, I don't really care, whatever happens kind of mentality. And they're like, you can't have that mentality anymore. Like, we're not at a place where that works. Like, you have to actually do something, Buddy. And if you're like they're like, who did you vote for? And he's like, what does it matter? Like, I wrote in the name of the guy that was on one of a commercial. And they were like, what's his name? And he's like, I don't know. And it was the guy from, it's on the back panel, the Rent is Too Damn High guy. He's like, I wrote that in. And they're like, then you wrote in that guy? What's his name? And he's like, oh, I don't know his name. I wrote in President Rent that is Too Damn High guy. And they're like, oh my God, Buddy, you can't do that. And so it's really cool to kind of see, the creator come back to these characters and kind of see like what would happen if, you never moved on from that, and how some people did. And so if you haven't read Hate before, you can jump in right here, because they do go back and forth between the 90s and where they were at that time period and the now. And so they kind of set you up with like, okay, this is what it was like to be a 20-somethings in that time period, and now what it's like to be in your older 40s and things in the 2020s. And so really, really good social commentary, and really hilarious all at the same time. So if you're a fan of things from Fantagraphics, obviously you'd love it. If you're a fan of things from Silver Sprocket, you're going to love it too. It fills right into those gaps. We've got some one-shots before we got a couple one-shots before we get to picks of the week. The first one is The Wicked Trinity from Archie Comics. This is going to lead us, though, to some kind of series because we are going to see a Witch Wars coming our way, which I'm really excited. So The Wicked Trinity is our new characters who are, going against Sabrina. They also live in Greenwood, and we've got our Fire Witch, our Earth Witch, and our Water Witch. And they've got they're trying to figure out a way to work together to prove that they're the most magical witches, the most powerful witches. And they're very, our Water Witch is like, I'm not into that. I just kind of want to like do magic and be cool because she's the Water Witch, so she's gonna go with the flow. And the Earth Witch is like, I don't understand why you can't just be grounded. And of course the Fire Witch is like, I have to burn everything to the ground. Like, I hate Sabrina and I'm hot-headed and I need to do something about it. They end up in an argument amongst each other only to come back to each other and find out how they're going to deal with whatever it is that's coming their way. And again, like I said, there is a new witch war of some sorts coming, and I cannot wait to see what Archie is doing with that. This is fantastic. I'm so excited to meet these new characters, and I just want us to have some more Archie ongoings in the like Archie horror world and less one-shots, because we've got Judgment Day right now, which is going on, which is really cool, but like let's do a witch ongoing from Archie Comics and let's make it a thing. And then we've got the Saturday Morning Adventures Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Usagi Yojimbo special. This is also a one-shot. And it just, the turtles are finally figuring out how to send Usagi back to his home world after 30-something years, I feel like, of Usagi Yojimbo being in the Ninja Turtles. I do love this because they walk up to him and they call him, they're like, what's up, Usagi? And then there is an editor note that's like, before anybody gets mad, according to the continuity of this Ninja Turtle series, going back to like the 1990s, he has always been Usagi in this world. The 1987 TMNT continuity. And so they go up to him and they're like, hey, Donatello's got a surprise for you. We figured out how to get you back to your home world. We're going to take you back there. And then Master Splinter's like, I think y'all should all go on a vacation and y'all should go see him home and make sure it's safe. And so they go with him, and the turtles, of course, can never go anywhere without adventure following them. And so when they get back, they find out that there is a band of shadows that are attacking people, and all of the villagers have been rounded up except one, and so they must help Usagi figure out who is attacking his world and help him put it back together again, because they can't just leave their buddy to deal with it all by himself after he's helped them for so long. And so you just get a classic Ninja Turtles Usagi Yojimbo crossover, fun times exploring, and I love it because it's a slightly oversized issue of just Ninja Turtles hijinks, hilarity, and perfect fun. So this is a good one if you haven't jumped into the Saturday Morning Adventures. This is a good one because it is a one-shot, so it completely stands alone. And if you have kiddos who you want to introduce to Usagi, I think this is a great way to do it because it is him like in the Ninja Turtles world with them doing stuff. A great way to just kind of explain who that character is and what his connection is. And they do make jokes about it all the time in there about like, oh, well, he was part of the Ninja Turtles for this. All right, we've got 3 picks of the week. I'm going to take a drink really fast. All right. First up, we've got Crocodile Black #2 from Boom Studios. This is such a crazy book. Philip Kennedy Johnson is taking you really deep into the mind of a serial killer as they become a serial killer. Like, this is all about a kid who is kind of is supposed to be, taking some psychotic medicines to help him focus into the real world, because he keeps talking about these visions that he's seeing, and he ends up going to make a delivery at one point and finding a dead body, and the man is an old man has just died in his house, and he's like, I don't know why I'm fascinated with this, and he can't take himself away from it. And now he's just staying in this man's house. Like, he's like moved in with this dead body. It's become his best friend. He's talking to him all the time. And this voice inside of him is also just growing and growing as he continues to be in this world. And he started like reading the old man's journals from when he was in the war, and just kind of falling into this man's mind, but also like further into his own. Meanwhile, our local detectives are having to deal with the fact that a pharmacist is selling drugs out of the pharmacy, and they're worried because the cartel is somebody that's always had that area, and they're like, if we don't watch out, like there's going to be a war because they're going to come after this guy. We don't want to clean that up. And so they're like, we have to put a stop to this now. And then at the same time, our young man has wandered into a bar and is hoping that he will be able to pass for 21. And when he does not, a bar fight ensues that opens up the darkness inside of him, and it's going to lead him into some really, really dark spaces. This is a very, very, like, already very dark book, and the mind that we're entering into just keeps getting darker. But the writing on it is Philip Kennedy Johnson, like I said, he's really taking you down that rabbit hole with the character. Into the Unbeing, Part 1 from Dark Horse. And I believe this cover is done by the same cover of people who did Faceless in the Family, because this looks exactly like it, and I love it. This is about a group of scientists who are in a post-apocalyptic world, and they are dealing with the fact that the corporation that they work for has sent them out to Australia essentially, and is like, we need jobs to find any signs of life. We need to recover the ability for humanity to survive, and this team does not work well together. Like, everybody has PTSD from all of the people that they lost from the world ending. They're not ready to work together. They're not really ready to work at all. And while they're having one of their typical arguments, a sudden thing blasts up on the screen that signifies that a life form has been found, but it's like the size of a volcano, and they're like, how did this like oasis essentially come to be? And so their leader decides that they have to go out and investigate it, but you're not supposed to go outside in this world. Like, the sun will kill you. It is so hot. And she's like, we're doing it anyway. And they go out and they climb into this massive thing, only to find out that like the massive thing is essentially like what they're hunting for, and they don't know where this life form is. They can't find it. They can't figure out what's going on, but everything else around them is just completely and totally creepy. The animals that are still exist are like flooding away. Everything kind of looks like monstrous, and they're like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know where we are. We don't know what's going to happen, but we have to camp out here now, and we have to figure this out. And the stuff that starts happening is insane. And I cannot wait to see where this book goes. They are going to have to crawl deep into this new world, and it is going to be a mess. If you didn't grab this book this week, highly recommend that you do next week, because it was great. And then the book that I was most surprised that I loved this week was Lawful, issue 1 from Boom Studios. I thought this was going to be something completely different than what it is, and I absolutely am obsessed with the plot of this story now. It's such a cool concept, but this is all about a world where monsters kind of reign supreme. There are bad monsters, and then there are people that are like partial monsters, like, because basically any time in this world that you don't follow a rule, as simple as telling a white lie, like, or stretching the truth, or cheating on a test, or, you know, killing somebody, doesn't matter like how far you go. If you break a rule of any kind, you will grow some monster type piece of something on your body, and everybody kind of becomes a different kind of monster. But they have people who are supposed to be the ones who are in charge of protecting them and like judging the laws. And so we are following the story of a young boy who, when he's a kid, he ends up throwing rocks over the bridge, which is against the rules, and he gets these scales on his chest, which I believe are in this picture-ish somewhere. And they are growing on him, and he's determined to never break a rule again. And so he grows up to just be like letter of the law, like no sense in interpretation. But of course he has that best friend that's like the one that cheats the rules all the time and is slowly like getting these monstrous pieces, but somehow is like the cutest monster. Is like turning into like a cheetah, because they cheat, I guess, I don't know. And so he is trying to become a citizen, that like one of the citizen judges, essentially. And so he ends up having to go through all these trials and tribulations, and if he gets the job, he is going to be one of the people that actually determines whether people either get kicked out of society because they are too monstrous, or gets to continue to live and like reviewed and like maybe like rehabilitated. And he has to deal with what all that's going to mean, and he's doing it all with a giant chip on his shoulder because his dad was one of these people. He was like the ultimate good guy, and so he has passed, and now he's trying to like live the best life that would make his father do well. And his mom is like, oh, by the way, if you don't like pass, like we're gonna get kicked out of the world, not because we're not good people, but because like we don't have the money to pay without you having a job. And so he's got all this pressure on himself, and then his friend's like, why don't you just cheat? And he's like, cause that's against the rules, I can't break a rule. Like he literally won't even cross a crosswalk until the light changes for him to cross. He's like that strict to the thing. Again, I already love the characters, love the world that they're building, can't wait to see where this goes. Greg Pak's definitely building something interesting in that story. All right, and so we got some books in stock. I'm going to kick it off by letting you know, if you do want to read more Doug Wagner, we do have Plush in stock. This is all about a guy who loses his fiance and is trying to get, over it, and his friend convinces him to go to a furry convention. And while at this furry convention, he runs into some furries that are actually very cannibalistic. He gets all kinds of tangled up in their world, and then does have a beautiful story that comes out of it, as with everything Doug Wagner writes. If you haven't read Vinyl, I will get more Vinyl in stock if I can. It's amazing, wonderful. It's about a retired serial killer who it's like has to go into a cult essentially to save his FBI agent that has gone undercover, and he thinks they're best friends, and so he has to go into the cult to try to save the day. I cannot believe I cried at a serial killer story where I was like, this is so beautiful, but I did. We've got Godzilla, the Best of Space Godzilla from IDW, with one of those amazing biggie covers. They are so cool, make a great framed world for you. We've got the Best of Spike. If you are a My Little Pony fan, they are doing the Best of My Little Ponies as well from IDW, and this is the Best of Spike. We've got Suicide Squad Dream Team issue 4. This is the last one, and this is written by Nicole Maines, who plays the Dreamer. Is it Dreamer? It's Dreamer. Dreamer on the CW universe, the Arrowverse, and now has brought that into the comics and is writing the character that she originated on the show herself, which is really cool. Scarlet Witch is back with a brand new number 1 from Steve Orlando. So this is, we had Scarlet Witch and then Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and this is continuing Steve Orlando's new Scarlet Witch world with that gorgeous cover. We've got Outsiders issue 8. We've got X-Men Era of Apocalypse, issue 1. We are moving towards our new X-Men world. Please let your local comic shop know which of the new X-Men titles you are going to want, because we are going to have 6 new X-Men titles starting off very early on, so you're going to need to let them know what you want, because those orders are happening now. Sinister Sons, issue 5. We've had Super Sons before. This is now the Sinister Sons, the kids of Zod and Sinestro. Monolith, issue 2 of 3. This is part of your Spawn universe. It's continuing to expand, and we are seeing Monolith have to battle his way through a space prison and take out some people in this like post Spawn problem world. We've got Gunslinger, issue 32. We've got Blood Hunt, issue 3. Look at that, Peach Momoko, Captain Marvel, looking like a cool kid. We've got Amazing Spider-Man Blood Hunt issue 2 of 3. This is the Spider-Man Blood Hunt story. So if you are an Amazing Spider-Man fan, you're not necessarily going to miss your Spider-Man story. But if you are reading Blood Hunt, you will miss some Blood Hunt. Strange Academy also has a Blood Hunt title with issue 2 out this week. This is a huge week for Blood Hunt. Continuing with Avengers issue 15, our Scotty Young Big Marvels, but this is also part of your Blood Hunt for the week. We've also got X-Men Jubilee Blood Hunt. This is a one-shot, also has a big Marvel cover. This is important because, I mean, I feel like if we're going to have Blood Hunt bringing vampires in and we're going to bring the X-Men in, surely we remember that Jubilee was a vampire at one point, so she gets her own story. And speaking of X-Men, we have Ultimate X-Men number 4. We've got Spider-Boy issue 8 and Darth Vader issue 47. Ooh, Miles Morales issue 21, which also crossed into Blood Hunt this week. So you will need that. There is was there a checklist? Yeah, there is a Blood Hunt checklist at the back of the book. So if you don't know what to pick up this week or this month in general, make sure you're looking at that checklist at the back of the book. It's going to take you through June and July now. So this will help you get all of your books this month and next month. So make sure you add them onto your subscription list with your local comic shop. Red Hood The Hill issue 5 for all you Red Hood fans. I believe this is the wrap up of this little mini series. I'm gonna check. Yeah, no, we've got one more issue on that. To be concluded next time. We've got the Incredible Hulk issue 13, also part of your Big Marvel Scotty Young covers. Not a part of Blood Hunt, though. But Fantastic Four issue 21, which has a Big Marvels cover, is part of Blood Hunt. Remember, check your checklist. We've got Gods issue 8, Green Lantern issue 12. We've got giant size Daredevil number 1. We've been seeing giant size of all the different Marvel characters this year, so make sure you Daredevil fans don't miss that. It is the 50th anniversary of the giant size. That's why we're getting them all. Deadpool hit issue 3 this week, so if you are getting ready for your Deadpool movie, you should be grabbing your Deadpool books. And then Gotham by Gaslight returned this week with the Kryptonian Age. And they also put out a facsimile edition of Batman Gotham by Gaslight number 1. So if you are a fan of that, you can get that facsimile, and you can also jump into this brand new piece of the puzzle. And then we also got a continuation of DC celebrating Pride this month. We have the Pride Uncovered issue. This is going to feature essentially pinups because it takes all of the covers from all of the Pride books over the years that have been fan favorites and collects them all into a really fun book where you can just have essentially an art book of all the best Pride covers. I'm really excited because they reissued this Jen Bartel cover with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy from 2 years ago, Pride issue, in foil. So it was really cool to get that. I'm super excited about it. Again, this week we have a lot going on at Bat City. We've got, we will have the Recess organization doing their Juneteenth celebration here in the parking lot and in the classroom on Wednesday. So again, if you're parking at the store up before 1 o'clock on Wednesday when you come in to get your new books, either use the parking lot on the side or the street parking, because the parking lot right in the very front will have some tents in it until 1. And then Thursday night at 8 p.m. is our Ladies and Non-Binary Nerd Night, so make sure you don't miss out on that. It's a lot of fun. We play we play games. No, we don't. We talk about games we're playing. We read books. We talk about books we're reading. We hang out. We have a lot of fun. We have some snacks. We have some drinks. You're all welcome to come, ladies and non-binary nerds, because it is a great time. It's come and go as you please, so don't feel like you have to be here right at 8. You're welcome to bring your own snacks or enjoy the ones that we will have for you. And then this Saturday is our Slam Academy sequential storytelling. So those of you out there trying to learn how to write comics in the kid and teen age, and you want to take that skill a little bit further, this is going to be a really great one to learn how to actually put your story into that comic format. And as always, there's going to be some great new comics on Wednesday. I can't wait to see what they are, because it's always my favorite day to take out the books and see what's in there and get excited about all the reading I'm going to do, so that I can come back and tell you all about them on Sunday night when we wind down your weekend. So I'm drinking some Teanum, I don't know, Italian wine tonight. It's been a fantastic choice. Thanks again for the recommendation and the help getting it from my friend Sydney. It's super great. I will see you all on Wednesday for New Comic Book Day, and until I do, happy reading, everyone.